abuse on the law enforcement side.
Of course.
No, but it's what do you mean? Because over here KPMG, there whatever says the implication. The proposed seeks to allow disclosure of personal data.
Yes, for the new year.
But or even before creating the document,
yes,
let the public contribute towards the creation of that document. Because once you already have a document, you already have an anchor. You know, like when you've gone to auctions, you know, like I once bought a car in an auction. There was a time I was going through a lot. I bought a car in an auction.
And that car survived you 3 years?
Yeah, it survived me 3 years.
3 years.
The increase in service fees from 15% to 20% for money transactions is gonna affect, you know, the rate that we get. So it's gonna cost you more to send 100,000 shillings. You know, like whatever it used to cost you, you now have to send more dollars to be able to make up that that amount of money that you want to send, because we'll possibly get a lower rate. Now, the other issue here is KRA's exemption to data protection. Now, the finance bill proposes to amend the Data Protection Act to exempt processing of personal data from the requirements under the Data Protection Act if the disclosure is necessary for the assessment, enforcement, or collection of any tax duty under a written tax law. Let me repeat that. The bill proposes to amend the Data Protection Act to exempt processing of personal data from the requirements under the Data Protection Act if the disclosure is necessary for the assessment, enforcement, or collection of any tax or duty under a written tax law, and they want this to be effective on the 1st of July 2024. And one of the implications is that the provision is intended to support the collection by businesses of personal data relating to consumers for verification purposes by the Kenya Revenue Authority. So
this, in other words, dependent to Sipende, will be granting KRA unadulterated access,
yes,
to your data,
to your M-Pesa transactions,
whatever it is, any telecommunications,
yes,
M-Pesa.
So yes, they don't need a subpoena.
No, they just go and they say Omosh na tunataka Omosh fire.
So is this,
so as the law as is currently,
proposal?
Yes,
they need a court order.
A court order
to be able to do that.
So, and this is both for KRA or any agency, basically, that would want to get access to your M-Pesa or phone records.
Yes, that's considered private data.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then that means that if this is also allowed, it could also open up for quote-unquote abuse on the law enforcement side.
Of course.
No, but it's what do you mean? Because over here KPMG, there whatever says the implication. The proposed seeks to allow disclosure of personal data,
yes,
for assessment, enforcement, like you said, or collection of taxes. This would allow entities who hold individuals' data, e.g. telecom companies, to share with KRA upon request. Any entity that holds or has your information, any entity, in the 254,
yes,
KRA wanasema tunataka mambo ya Ali.
So they can go to the bank, right?
Yes.
This will be open for abuse.
And when I'm saying law enforcement, I'm saying that you have a bad player who has a law enforcement badge or has law enforcement behind his bad play.
Or anyone who comes and wants to assume the authority of being KRA. Because we know people who are imposters.
Yes. Who are fake, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And even if I have a plan, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna work with Ali in whichever bank. I'm like, yo, I'll come in, I have authority, nataka kuwa na Ali ndio mkubwa, ni manager, niko na authority ya kwenda kuangalia mambo ya Omosh.
Yes.
How are you going to stop that?
So then now you know what Omosh actually has sitting in the bank.
I have everything, your details, your email, your phone number, maybe even your KRA pin, whatever.
Then you send Jackso and Nani to come and wait for you, Uko.
Yes.
In a Subaru.
Uh-huh.
And then they bundle you in the boot.
Like a nonsense. Utadu.
And they tell you, give us. And you say, I don't have. Then they remove the statement for you.
You know, I'm hoping Okiya Omtata is drafting something to take this to court, because this here,
hey, man,
this is out of bounds.
It can.
This is completely out of bounds.
It can open a lot of cans of worms.
Yes, this is totally out of bounds. So I hope there's someone who is preparing something.
But unfortunately,
the only thing right now is that I don't think you can take it to court because it's not law yet.
No.
But it's still a bill.
But here's the problem, and I think somebody mentioned this earlier, and then we're still gonna talk about it. But here's the problem. Last year there was a brouhaha about the 2023 finance bill, and guess what? It was still passed.
Now, what and this is where like those issues we're talking about. What's the value of public participation?
And somebody asked that.
As well as also, the Azimio leg of, the legislature had said, they're blocking it. They said, we are voting against it. But as we saw with Anfo 23, which had issues then,
it had
right?
major issues, especially there was the VAT for PESA.
So the problem I think that I see overall with this,
and by the way, we're not we're not experts, as we're talking as consumers.
Yes, the problem I see overall with this thing called public participation, it's kind of like I have a full loaf of bread that I've been told to share with you, and then nikate 3/4, then I bring a quarter, then I tell you, now here's a quarter loaf. I've been told to share this quarter with you, so we kata an eighth, no niachi an eighth when you go with the whole 3/4. So when you talk about public participation, they already have a document published, and that's the starting point. That is problematic.
And if you remember, I don't know if guys watched the interview, but you remember Sam Kituk was with that guy Kenyan.
Not Kenyan. He's called Bilokero.
No. There was Bilo. Yeah. There was somebody. There was another one, Kenyan guy. There was another.
Oh
Kenyan
guy. I can't remember his
right?
name. Yes, but a very
Kenyan
smart guy. Yeah.
But he was being asked because some mentioned that there were standing orders. I can't remember with whom they were with. I can't remember the names, but one I think was a tax expert, and another guy.
The tax expert from Madare, is the one I'm talking about.
And then there was a guy from Madare, but there was a guy, a member of parliament.
Yeah.
And there were standing orders that said that this thing had been reduced, participation or discussion from 5 days to 3 days. So someone was asking simply, why has it been reduced to 3 days? That was one question. He could not answer. The other thing is, why introduce it now? Why not introduce it in April?
To give people time.
No, that was two.
Yes, because they normally enforce after the budget thing has been read, right?
Or
the new year.
Or even before creating the document,
yes,
let the public contribute towards the creation of that document. Because once you already have a document, you already have an anchor. Like when you've gone to auctions, I've once bought a car in an auction. There was a time I was going through a lot. I bought a car in an auction.
And that car survived you 3 years?
Yeah, it survived me 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah, it was 2-3 years. So I appreciate, and I bought it for $700.
I remember the Chrysler.
Yeah, the Chrysler, yeah. It's a Chrysler Cyrus. I don't think they even make those.
Sebring.
No, it wasn't Sebring. It was Cyrus.
It was Cyrus?
Yeah, it was Cyrus.
That's pre-Sebring.
That's pre-Sebring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ilikupatia miaka tatu, bro.
Yeah, ilipatia miaka tatu. So what the tactics that the government is using ni kama mtu wa mnada, an auction. So what happens in an auction, let's say, for example, this iPad, let's say like the market value of this iPad, let's say is $500.
Mm-hmm.
The market value is $500. So what expert auctioneers do, because kuna watu wengi wamekuja hapo kubai, when they start, and they speak very fast, they'll start with a very high number, $10,000. So now, that's a number.
Benchmark has been set.
Of course, you're not going to pay $10,000 for an iPad, but that number has been set in your mind. You know, that number has been set in your mind. So now you're not thinking $500 anymore. You're thinking from $10,000. So by the time he's come down, imefika 2K, and someone buys it for 2K, and you know what? This thing, it came down from 10K to 2K. I got a good deal. But then the reality is the market value of this thing is 5 SOC, and you paid 4 times. So that's what these guys are doing. You know, they realize that this is a punitive tax. People are going to complain. So let's suggest a ridiculous number. Let's say we are going to tax bread at 16%. And then people will cry. That will come back like heroes and then say there was public participation and people have complained. So now we've reduced it to 8%. And that's exactly what will happen. You know, like that's exactly what will happen. Quite a number of comments coming in.
Boss, here the comments here we have Washeke Ndirango says there is capitalism and then there's predatory lending, and this is a response to I think Mwakisha Mgendi. Ida, karibu sana. Is it Ada? Eva. That's the one who gives you trouble.
Who?
Ida. Are there any audio translated copies or even a copy for dummies? Hey.
That's a good question.
That's a very good question. But there isn't.
That's a very good question.
I thought I thought we found something, right?
But you see,
what we found is not for dummies. You know, it's still the document is 137. This one's produced by KPMG. They're simplified by Bowman's, but it's still 35 pages.
And remember, Pablo is the one who shared. He said, by the way, I found something that is condensed and is supposed to be reader friendly.
Mwananchi friendly.
Mwananchi friendly, supposedly.
Now, you know, when you're talking about Mwananchi friendly, you're supposed to think about that guy who's on the street, not someone who's working in an office sitting behind a computer.
That's another one.
Yeah. So
do they have this finance bill available, say at Huduma Center or wherever?
Now that's a question.
That's a good question.
Like
For someone who's in Kenya.
If you don't have internet and you don't have a smartphone,
now we don't know
that can PDF the thing and pull it down.
But now you're gonna go to Huduma Center and start reading.
No, I'm just saying. You see,
document.
It's that thing, the same thing of threshold of
public participation
voting.
Yeah.
The way we were being pulled along, and told it's coming. Then it's taken to Rwanda, it's taken to Uganda, it's taken to TZ.
Okay.
Then
but as long as the process started,
boss.
Washeke says also expect more committee folks to be calling you. Data protection.
Okay.
And I think that's into that. Stephen JJ, I have my Safaricom line. So hata niko na hustler fund. I have a project back home, so it's easier for me to send money to myself. Then I pay the guys back home with M-Pesa. It helps with accounting. Lakini na hii mambo ya Zakayo, hiyo ni ungori. Trishi says, is there any real serious enforcement of privacy in Jamhuri?
They're supposed to be. We have an act now.
On paper,
we have an act.
There's even a data commissioner.
Yes,
I think. Yeah.
There is a data commissioner.
So
she has been actually really trying.
Yeah, how indeed it's enforced.
That's another
I
story.
don't know. We're not on the ground.
But
So
we don't know
unless there's somebody who's listening who is in on that side of the house, or maybe is in medical type, because that's data.
That's another story.
That's data with privacy, right?
Medical is another story.
Yes, that's
because there's data of your personal, your PIN, whatever.
Correct.
Then there's medical.
Yeah,
medical
so like I
Yeah.
guess a banker probably would be the better one, right? For this data protection, no?
But you see, banker is just protecting. You could say
data is everywhere. Data is everywhere.
Yeah, but you see,
there's
so when you're doing medical, you're right. There's privacy for that, right? There's the PHI.
Because here there's HIPAA.
I think you guys are thinking American.
No. I'm trying to tell you that there's HIPAA.
So who would we go to now to find out if these guys even enforce? Are we together?
So there's the data. There's a data commissioner. There's an office.
Understood.
But now the question,
that's the person who's in the office. Who is the actual user? Ule mtu yuko affected kama wewe.
Yeah.
Like a person who, or a company or somebody who would be actually protected.
So I'm not understanding your question.
Okay. So we have the entity.
Yeah.
We have the law.
Yeah.
Right? How do we know that it's actually being used?
So the thing is, the law, it's kind of like if you accuse someone has stolen from you, there's a law against theft. So you have to go to court and prove that he stole from you. So it's kind of one of those things where, like, if data has been stolen from you and you don't know it's been stolen, you don't know what you don't know. You need to have proof that your data has been stolen, because there's actually a law that protects unauthorized use of your data.
So to say, you went and swiped your card at my establishment, and then I went and I took that information and I sold it to some bad players who went and did something, and now you can prove that it's me who sold it.
Yeah.
Then that's where you would now have.
But you
grounds.
see, now, but you see, we need to interrogate that,
You would
because
now have grounds to go back.
You'd have grounds to go to court.
And go to court, and because there's a law
and
that's
get restitution, because there's a law
Okay.
that exists.
but we still need to interrogate it, because we need to know for a fact that on the ground, because on paper we're not really
Understood.
sure
and
what we
that's
have.
what I was trying to get at. I was like,